Good evening, everyone. The time being 7 p.m, I declare the meeting open. Now I'd like to say an acknowledgement of country. The town of Walkerville would like to acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on today and respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We recognise the many generations of stewardship the Kaurna people have provided to this land and respect that their cultural heritage and beliefs are as important today as they were for their ancestors. Present we have all of the council members, and in attendance we have the acting CEO, Group Manager Assets and Infrastructure, Group Manager Corporate Services, Group Manager Public Relations and Community Services and Council Secretariat. There are no apologies. Do any members have any leave of absences coming up? Thank you, Councillor Corr.
Yeah. I would like to take a leave from 3rd of April to 27th of April because I'm going to India for my dad's death anniversary. So everyone is going from my family. I'm seeking support from everyone if I can take leave.
Happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Ripp. Yes, Councillor Hankey.
Oh, sorry, we'll do this one first, I suppose. I'll have the leave of absence as well.
Oh, okay. Well, first we'll vote on this one. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried.
Thank you.
Councillor Hankey.
Just from this Thursday, this Friday the 24th until the 1st of April. Just I'll be absent.
Yep.
Second that as
Thank
well.
you, Councillor Ripp. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 2.1, the confirmation of the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 20th of February 2023. Is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Trotter, seconded Councillor Allenson. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Does anyone have any declarations of interest relating to the meeting tonight? Councillor Zeppel.
14.3.6b, the Gilberton Woodland Bush Care Community Fund application. My wife is involved in that group that's doing that, so I'll absent myself from the room while that is in discussion.
Okay. Yep. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. There are no deputations, representations or presentations. There are no petitions. The Mayor's Diary is in the agenda items. Any questions? Or otherwise, is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Trotter. Seconded. Councillor Zeppel. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Are there any reports from elected members having attended training, conferences, seminars or external meetings? Councillor Zeppel.
Yeah, so last Friday I went through the assessment panel training for my role on the assessment panel. So Michael Walmsley organised that. So yeah, that was well worthwhile being there.
Thank you.
Is your head spinning?
It's a big role.
Oh yeah.
I actually have a letter from the Minister that I'll forward you. I sent it to Scott today. Just might be of interest. Anyone else on that item? So reports from elected members having attended subsidiary board meetings. Yeah, okay, so there have been a few subsidiary board meetings in the last period of time. So, Councillor Vanstone, would you like to provide an update on, I mean, the minutes are in the pack, so if anyone's...
I've got nothing to add to the minutes.
Yep, okay. The EHA board meeting? Thank you.
No, nothing further really to add to the board meeting. There was a confidential item at the end which took up a fair bit of time involving the City of Prospect, which I don't believe I can really talk about. But other than that, it was just a pretty routine sort of go through budget type meeting.
And so I attended the East West Board meeting on 23rd of February 23. I didn't invite Jay to that because I didn't realise other councils did bring their deputies, but not all did, but some did. So going forward, I'll be forwarding those invites to Jay as well, but the minutes are in the pack.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought the deputies Australia voted as well.
Well,
so
I was surprised, yeah. I think they just took it upon themselves to basically vote, and they weren't able to vote. They just can't listen because it is an open meeting anyway. We're having a mayors and CEOs meeting, inaugural meeting with East Waste this Wednesday, so that will be interesting. I'm not sure how much more I'll get out of that being on the board anyway. And East Waste has also put forward their draft business plan for next financial year, which I think we'll get in due course.
This is correct.
Okay, there have been no questions from the gallery as of midday today. Do any members have any questions without notice? Right. There are no questions on notice. Do any members have any motions without notice? Right. Okay, and we have one motion on notice, and that's from Councillor Menke. Would you like to talk to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, look, I raised this motion, something that I've been pretty keen on for a number of, well, this is my second term of council. We had a little bit of success the first term, but I strongly believe that asset management planning is a legislative requirement under the Act, and further, I think any council, an important process, if we're ever going to be compared against other councils or be audited for any particular reason, I think the first go-to is how we manage our assets. So the stronger we are in this position, I think it does aid council. So, I mean, look, it's a pretty long-winded motion. It was more to give some direction to staff as to what my expectations would be. But in saying that, it looks bigger than what it actually is, because realistically it's almost a page per dot point per asset class, and I strongly believe that looking at some of the data that's come back, Walkerville Council has really good, they have a good contractor for their data capture for their roads and footpaths, so a lot of our data should be almost readily on hand to work out things like the overall condition assessment index, I should say, of the network. I've seen in other documents you've got your customer requests already, that's already being captured. So realistically, it's bringing a lot of this information, putting it into one document, into a document for each asset class. And the way I've structured this is really to look forward and have the opportunity to benchmark against 2023, and then in 4 years' time it'll be 27. Obviously, looking back to benchmarking, we can look at what our overall condition of our network is, how much money we've invested into the network, etc. So, is the condition of our assets improving? Is it getting worse? Are we sort of around the mark? But yeah, so by no means are we trying to take the power away from the engineers. I strongly, as I've always backed in our engineers, it's their jobs to do it, but it's more giving them the opportunity to sell the job that they do on behalf of our community, and it's also giving the community an understanding of what it does cost, the expenditure it costs to actually maintain and renew our assets. One of our biggest and most important financial indicators is our asset renewal funding ratio, and unless we've got a process described within our asset management plans and a 10-year capture and like a 10-year budget moving forward, there's not much really to assess ourselves against. So And like I said, any audit that comes in would be saying, well, how did we come up with the 10-year budget? I think, well, if you can actually demonstrate the data that we have through the asset management plans, then clearly there's some rigour around it, there's some belief, and there's no reason the elected board would ever question what comes up. So that's it. So do you want me to read through the whole motion, or is it there on the page and people are happy with that?
People read it, and are there any questions on it?
Just have a question, if possible, if the administration have seen it before. Obviously, it motion with notice, but if they've had the chance to digest it, and is it fully workable? Really, it's a question through the chair for the administration. Just want to make sure that if we pass the motion, that it's going to be fully understood, administration and supported.
So as to the first part of that question, it did get sent to administration before the February council meeting, but it was just out of time, so it was determined to come to this meeting. So the administration have been aware about it for quite a while. Yeah.
And through your worship, it is workable, is it not? James?
Yeah, through your worship, the timeline of end of November is workable. Yep. We are legislated to review our asset plans within 2 years of every council term, so we're a bit ahead of that, but I think it's with the new council on board, it's a good time to get this off, and underway as soon as possible.
Cool.
Yeah, and I suppose the reason around that is because we do have some questions about our future finances, and I just want to make sure that we're all aware of what it does cost to manage our infrastructure. So before we go committing ourselves to huge upgrades and whatever, we should really understand where we are today. And as I have mentioned to James in the hallway as well, that look, I'm not expecting to give you a template. I'm allowing, it's just more graphs and tables, I believe, and I think that's enough information, and maybe an executive summary over the top of it just to bring it all together so I think the members can understand it. But if you just provide a table or a graph as per the dot points per class with a summary, I think that really does. It's an easier approach, and it looks like a lot, but I think it's actually an easier approach to what a lot of other councils do.
Yep.
Is there a second of this motion? Councillor Williams, thank you. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, I would, thanks. Look, I think it's important, as I read through the motion and reflected on it today, and also thought about our sustainability committee, and I know the terms of reference are coming back to that committee. It will be interesting at that first meeting to see how broadly the sustainability committee wants to go, because this sort of stuff does tie into sustainability, not only of our assets, but obviously the council as a whole, and having previously been part of a committee that was set up specifically to benchmark ourselves against other Eastern region councils. I think this is an important piece of that puzzle, that we ensure that we've got, that we know where we're going here. Sustainability is extremely broad, and when you look at sustainability, we've also got to look at sustainability of the council as a whole. So it's an important part of it.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, there are no reports, no strategy reports. And the next item, 14.2.1, is regarding the adoption of the Code of Practice, access to council meetings, council committees and council documents. So that's, the papers are there to have read. I do just have a quick question, if I may. It doesn't refer to the updating of the terms of reference for the Walkerville Community Committee.
Does it not? I do apologise, Your Worship. We can make sure that that is amended for the next council meeting. Unless, of course, you wish to put it as an additional one.
Part 5 talks about the CEO Performance Review Committee terms being updated.
Yep.
We just add in a new point about updating the terms of reference of the Walkerville Community Committee along with the way that the CEO Performance Review Committee terms of reference being updated.
Your Worship, if I may, Council Secretariat, that that administration be authorised. To emulate the changes in the CEO Performance Review Committee terms of reference. Changes into the Walkerville Community Club terms of reference as it relates to external, what's the terminology that we use? Electronic access and participation.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion as it stands at the moment?
Your Worship,
Thank
Councillor.
you, Jay Allison. Councillor Allison, seconded Councillor Zeppel. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Okay, Councillor Trotter.
There is one section here that says on page 53 of attachment A, was it B, that no decisions have been made for informal gatherings and committee members, committee meetings.
I'm sorry, Councillor Trotter, page 53, did you say?
Page 53.
And we're looking at which
the
section?
amended draft,
Yes.
the clean draft.
Yep.
Does that mean that it's only for information and briefing sessions under 7.8 and 7.9?
7.8 and 7.9 is for information and briefing sessions only because it relates to that section.
We can't have electronic. Is that, what's the 7.7?
No decisions can be made at informal gatherings of council or...
Yeah, okay. But
Yeah.
it's not, they can be still electronic.
Correct, they can be. Correct,
Because
yes.
it only mentions that the information and briefing sessions, so they're classed as an information and briefing.
An informal gather, I will... can we put in there, that should have been amended. Can we put in there point 8, please?
Because it just doesn't refer to the council
Yeah.
committee members, like a meeting.
That point 7.7 of the code of attachment B.
Sorry, I probably didn't articulate it. The 7.8
7.8.
says 7.8, it doesn't, it refers to information and briefing sessions by council members. Does that mean that if we're having committee meetings, they're allowed to be electronic?
It does, yes, it
Okay.
does.
Sorry, that's my question.
Oh.
And decisions made at the committee.
At committee meetings,
Yes.
not informal gatherings. Because,
Yes.
yes,
they
yes.
never-
So Danielle, please delete that.
That wasn't clear on that one.
So sorry, 7.7 though says no decisions can be made at informal gatherings, yet fine, or council committee
Members, yeah, that is.
council committee members.
Yeah.
That
that's
should
what
be meetings. Is that what you were trying
Yeah.
to allude to,
Yeah,
Councillor
sorry.
Troy? I do
it just
apologise.
doesn't make sense, yeah.
7.7 is the. Can you please scroll up, Daniel? I'll need to refresh my memory with regards to the motion.
But aren't we saying that we can make decisions at council committee
You can make decisions at council committee meetings
when they're electronic?
when they're electronic, as long as it's in an open public meeting.
Yes.
So you can still make decisions at a committee meeting in confidence, but there will be no permission for electronic
Yeah,
cards of
informal
confidence.
yes.
So do we just cut off the end of 7.7
7.7,
and
yes,
just
I
say
think
no
so.
decisions can be made in informal gatherings of
Yep.
council, full stop?
Yep.
Pick up.
Yeah. To remove.
Sorry, just bear with me for 1 second. I'll just open the agenda so I can copy the wording.
Yes, give a pick up. Chomp, chomp, chomp. Good pick up. Oh, another Coke.
And Council Secretariat, that 7.7 of the code appearing as attachment B.
Okay. Did we have a mover yet? Oh yeah, we have, we've already moved. Okay. Any other comments on it? All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. The next item is item 14.2.2, the Audit Committee Terms of Reference Amendment, which one includes the access to electronic access meetings, the code that we just talked about, but second includes the Mayor as an ex officio member of the Audit Committee.
Move that way.
Thank you, Councillor Ripp. Seconder, Councillor Williams. Anyone wish to talk to this? All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Item 14.3, the Budget Review 2, 22-23, and that is a motion that Council adopts Budget Review 2 for the 22-23 financial year and the variances contained within it. Does anyone, any questions? Is there a mover? Councillor Trotter, seconder, Councillor Vanstone. Anyone wish to speak in favour or against? Okay, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. The next item is relating to the appointment of a member to the Walkerville Community Committee. Now, I understand you didn't call for nominations.
I did not, Your Worship. This time around, I didn't, on the basis that we've only gone to ballot once, and the other two times we've dealt with the matter in the chamber. So I figured on this occasion we'll just open it up to elected members if they wish to nominate for the position, and we can discuss it from there.
Okay, so we have vacancy on the Walkerville Community Committee for a council member. The presiding member of that committee is Councillor Trotter. I'm also on the committee, as is Councillor Core. So would anyone like to nominate for the fourth position on that committee? Councillor Zeppel, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll put in Councillor Zeppel's name there, please. Is there a mover? Thank you, Councillor Ripp. Seconder? Councillor Core, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you.
That's a good way.
Smooth, streamlined.
So,
You made the deadline.
I didn't miss the deadline.
okay, item 14.3.3, Road Terrace Service Road Vegetation Management. I'll take it that you've all read the report, and we have a recommended motion here. Would anyone like to move this motion or speak to it?
I can speak to it. I spoke with James and met him at the site, and we've gone over some of the concerns that we had in the last council meeting, and I'm happy with what's come back.
So you're moving this motion?
Yep.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Vanstone, would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Any questions? Councillor Williams.
I'm just not certain at some of those points whether some of the clearing goes quite far enough. I know from the last report we had those larger pink zones that were shown at some of those intersections, which I know was probably just showing and a particular affected area that we were talking about. And I thought, perhaps wrongly, that was going to, a lot of that area was more or less going to be cleared so that it was at a point where it was just ground cover. And I had some notes with some of the pictures. in particular. There's one on page 121. Where have we gone? 121 showing, I think it's the wormwood that's dying off, being removed. But even that planting, and the issue for me when I've been there most of the time is when you're looking uphill. Down on the flat, it's not such an issue because you haven't got cars coming down, so you don't have such the issue. But where you're coming up Road Terrace and you're looking up the hill, because you're starting from a lower point, it's not like standing near those plants and looking above them, because your car's considerably lower. So it makes that planting appear to be higher because your car's parked will stop downhill. So on site 3 on page 121, the picture at the top there, the concern I still have is with what's called ground cover there, but to me that's still growing vertically, and I believe that creates an issue as well in front of the wormwood. Now it may well be, and I'm not certain because obviously I haven't seen it yet with the wormwood, dying wormwood being removed. It may well be that being removed may solve quite a bit of the problem. But I'm still concerned with the plantings at those corners that I believe are more than ground cover, because they do grow vertically, and the issue comes when they grow vertically and continue to grow vertically rather than out, because before you know it you can have the same issue that we're dealing with at the moment. So I think in both 2 and 3, perhaps we need to stipulate better what ground cover is, or what it is that we're going to put there. Now I can't tell from that site 3 in particular whether there's quite a bit of mound there or whether there's quite a bit of planting. Perhaps you might be able to tell us, James, but to me I can see a similar issue arising from that plant.
Yeah, so through your worship, the site 3 will be getting some removals in those pink shaded zones. So this is sort of on top of, I think the motion may have been amended to include site 3 at the last meeting. So these photos don't show those removals yet. So it's sort of hard to predict what those sight lines may be. However, a decent portion of that rosemary bush that you've alluded to on page 121 will be removed in that sight line triangle that was shown in the previous council meeting.
And actually it's the same with site 2 as well. We appear to have the same planting there, and once again any cars coming up the service lane, I know from having been there, we'll struggle to see cyclists in particular coming down in that lane, and that looks as though, correct me if I'm wrong, it looks as though it's the same planting at that point. And in this particular photo, it appears to be particularly high, when I think ground cover rather than anything that grows vertically, which I believe we also spoke about at the last meeting, will more than likely solve some of that issue.
Through your worship, yeah, so site 2 is also earmarked for a cut back of that rosemary bush in that highlighted area, as per the previous motion at the last council meeting. So there will be cutbacks to improve that rather than pruning. It will be removed.
So are you saying the highlighted area in this report, or the highlighted
Correct,
area?
yeah. So that was what was previously endorsed.
Because that's a fairly insignificant amount, I believe, for the cars that would be parked, that would be stopped coming up the hill.
So, Councillor Williams, are you seeking an amendment to the motion that's on the table?
Or through your worship, Councillor Williams, would you be comfortable with us actually undertaking the work and then revisiting it so that we can see? Because it's all I think it's all very well and good for us to sit and discuss and debate the motion and the works to be undertaken, but I think undertaking the works as stipulated in the previous report and this report would actually give us a clear indication of what other work may need to be done.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to suggest, rather than amending the motion that's there, was to put a point 4 in, and that when works have been completed, that we
Receive a
obviously-
subsequent
we see, Yeah,
report.
we see it
Yeah,
before,
that's
we
fine.
see it before
Yeah.
and after report.
Yep.
So that's really what I think will give us a true indication of the differences, particularly within the report if we receive this one, and then also how the pictures then appear. But also members have an opportunity to, if you haven't driven up there, so I've been up there a couple of times, and then since I've been made aware of it, particularly for cyclists coming down the hill, that's probably my concern as much as anything. I know cars do race through there as well, they shouldn't, but it is difficult, so.
Councillor Williams, are you happy with point 5?
If you could just add showing before and after.
Councillor Allenton, will you move this amendment? Councillor Downstream?
Yes.
Council Secretary, showing before and after pictures.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Okay, put to the vote. All those,
Sorry, was Councillor Vanstone happy with that?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
all those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. The next item is item 14.3.4, the Vale Street and Harris Road traffic data report of March 23, which arose from a previous motion. The recommendation from administration is that the report is forwarded to SAPOL for monitoring and enforcement purposes, but there are other options available. Would someone like to move this motion or something different?
I'll move the motion as it stands just to get it onto the table, but I just wanted to, as part of moving this, thank the staff for doing that body of work, but to also just check for point 3, for potential traffic calming. Now, can I just seek clarification as what that means? Because obviously, you mentioned the word traffic calming to members in the community and people go, speed humps, no thanks. But you talk about options that potentially not those prison chicanes, but chicanes that people drive in and out of, and I get relatively good feedback from people around those. So what does, in your eyes, for potential traffic calming actually mean?
Yeah, through your worship, so it could mean a number of things. It can be as simple as a speed limit change, potentially like Walkerville Terrace.
Okay.
Could mean a narrowing of the road. Could mean a median strip to give that perception of a slower speed environment, or it could mean speed humps. So it's really up to council when stage 2 of the transport plan comes through to once hearing feedback from the community to understand what sort of appetite there is for different traffic control devices. So.
All right. So that'll be consulted as to the community if we move this tonight.
Correct.
That'll be consulted as part of that. Cool. All right. And the different options presented as well. Great.
So are you talking about having the motion talk about traffic calming measures or reporting to SAPOL?
Well, because it says here that council consider Vale Street and the actions for stage 2 of the transport study. So I just want to make sure that there's going to be options, proper consultation, options put out, costings, that type of thing, so the community have an awareness. That I'm happy with that then.
Councillor Williams.
I'm happy to second, however, if Councillor Ripp would be happy removing the last 4 words from point 3 and just leaving it at the transport study for 23-24, rather than putting in 4 potential traffic calming. I think we can consider that when we look at the actual strategy that comes back to us.
Yeah.
That way, the community won't be concerned if they happen to look at this recommendation. It's also, to a degree, it will then form some sort of budget process or bid. And having also been through something similar previously through Medindi when we were looking at, and I'm glad this recommendation came back from administration too, because when we looked at some of those things before, we spent the money on the consultants to get a report and some recommendations through Medindi, and what it was going to cost us was astronomical. It was 150 grand or even a lot more than that. So there were some more minor things that were done in the area. So you have to have a bit of an intention, I think, of actually doing something about it prior to even going out to the consultants, because otherwise you're throwing money away. If you go out to the consultants and get a recommendation to spend $100,000, we'll probably all go, if we'd known that, we wouldn't have gone out to consultants. So I think it's better to just consider it as part of a bigger strategy and then move forward.
You okay with that amendment?
I'm okay, and I'm glad that you'll be happy with it.
I reckon.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak to this? Councillor Nanki?
Yeah, look,
Thanks, James.
just very briefly, it's interesting. It's just really those maximum speeds that are of the concern, isn't it?
114, yes.
Yeah,
That's
from a roundabout to a pretty sharp end. That's a pretty decent motor vehicle.
Councillor Nanki, I think when we read it, we almost fell off our chairs.
Yeah.
So it's quite concerning.
I suppose the only thing that comes to mind, I mean, look, obviously I see this as a safe hold forwarded on, because I'm just, obviously it's a bus route, traffic calming will become difficult with that. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I would. So I think that the recommendation reads well. I'd be supporting as it currently is, and then and plus the minor amendments there. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking for any other options.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this motion? Okay, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, item 14.3.5 is a community fund application from Wilderness School students with the name Argo 22, which I'm assuming is a team name. So they have not asked for any specific amount of funding. It was an amount as determined by council. I think I've got some questions, but I think other people also have questions on this, so I'll just see if anyone has questions that they'd like to ask. No, they don't. Okay. I know you've said in here that we don't know if they live in the Walkerville area. Is there any way that we can find that information out?
I can request to the group and ask for all the individual suburbs of the girls in the group.
Yeah. The other question I had was, this I think is actually imminent, like in this week, the event that they're going to. So how does that impact on funding grants?
Through your worship, as a general stance, we fund them prior to. However, there have been 2 or 3 occasions in the past 12 to 18 months, where we have funded them retrospectively as a result of conflict in times and things like that. So if you wish for it to go out and come back into the chamber with relevant information for determination, that would be fine.
Because it's just, I think, like some of the things that they put in there about putting us on t-shirts or whatever, that's irrelevant. It's been and gone kind of thing. Okay, well, I'll just see if anyone would like to...
With these type, Your Worship, with these type of grants, what's the, I guess the process been in the past, or the standard amount? Has it been around the 250 mark? 250,
that's correct. So prior to Feb of last year, I believe it was, there was a general amount of about 150 that was paid, and then the generic amount was increased to 250. However, the policy was changed that council could make a determination about how much they want to fund. But generally speaking, 250 is the amount that council have endorsed.
All right.
I'll move we give them 250, just because it's going to waste too much of council administration time to collect all the information and just get rid of it.
Okay, is there a seconder?
I'll second the 250 and taking on board the Mayor, the Worship, your point though. But I suppose, I mean, let's face it, with any community club or group we fund, or even if we do Walkerville Oval, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to spend millions of dollars down there, and there'll be a lot of people that use, I guess, the facilities from outside the area too. So we don't, I suppose, in some way measure that. In some ways we don't. So I think for consistency, I'm happy to second it and give them the 250.
Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Okay, all those in favour? Thank you. That means we voted that. Yep. Sorry, I didn't see it. But yeah, hand was up and down before I
Actually hard.
got through to everyone. Yes, thank you. That is carried. Okay, the next item is community fund application for Gilberton Woodland Bush Care Group. So goodbye, Councillor Zeppel. Okay, in their application, the Gilberton Woodland Bush Care Group has requested $300. Would anyone like to move that or something different?
I'm happy to move that. I think it's a worthwhile project. And how often, Your Worship, do they ask for this is a winter planting, so.
Based on what is in here, it says that they haven't requested money before.
I don't recall seeing these,
No.
this group apply for it in the past.
Through the chair, it's my understanding they haven't officially applied through this, but they occasionally do make contact with someone from our field staff just to seek advice on what plants they can supply there. So we are in regular contact with them to assist when they need advice on plants, etc. But they haven't officially asked us for funding for it before.
Okay. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Vanstone. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried.
As quick as he leaves, he's back.
I just don't want another meeting ending at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, tell him to imagine. Oh, we should all have a sad face.
Okay, welcome back, Councillor Zeppel. Just for your reference, we passed a motion awarding them $300. The next one is a community fund application from High Spirits Harmony, who have requested $8,000 in their application, but I can see that the administration has just put an XXX there, given we don't have $8,000 in the fund.
There's not even an extra X if it gets into the
I have a question, Your Worship.
Yes.
How many people, there's 30 in the group, and how many are members of the community of Walkerville? This is a question.
Through the chair, they haven't given us a specific number. They did say a large number of them are, but they haven't detailed specific suburbs for each of the members.
Because even if 30 members work in Walkerville, it would be only 7,500 if you were to give them the allocated
$250 each.
What was the
if the individual did it.
What's the might say in there? I might have missed it. But what's the with these fund applications? What's the balance of available budget left?
I think it was
$3,216.
3216. Yeah, and that's post the first, so we've just moved to the 3216. All right.
So we've got
No, minus what we've
April,
just-
May, June. We've got 3 more council meetings after this.
Yeah.
I have a question as well. So the policy says that they should be spending the money in the term, do the event in the year in which the funds are granted, whereas this event is in September.
Yeah, so we've put it to council now. You can make that decision if you would like to put it up now, because that's how they've requested it. However, you also may wish to defer it until next financial year if you wish, when the funds reset. If you would like to grant more than what's available.
Probably some people apply early because they need the.
Yeah, and through your worship, that's exactly right, Councillor Rector. I believe the intention is that if money is given, it will be spent this financial year as a result of planning for the trip itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. I'm just wondering, given this with the community grants, 2 out of 3 have come up so far where elected members have queried the members of the groups and where they may reside. I'm just wondering whether there's something that we could include within our application form that forces the applicants to give that information. Now, obviously, when the reports come to council, we don't need to see names and addresses. All we need to see is 3 from Gilbert and 2 from Walkerville, 1 from Vale Park, or something like that. And I'm just wondering whether there's an opportunity to perhaps and without us having to do it formally, to amend the application form that goes out so that that information is included in all applications that we receive, because a lot of the people in this particular choir may well reside within the area. They may not as well. So I think that's information that would be important to include as part of our.
Through your worship, Councillor Williams, are you speak? The form itself is an operational matter, so we can definitely amend that. I have no problem taking that offline and amending that form appropriately. But if you're seeking the information from this particular group, we would be happy to defer it, seek that information from the group and return the report to the chamber if that's what you would like.
Look, I think it's worth doing that, given in this situation we do have the time, where with the wilderness one, we didn't, and I agree completely with Councillor Danstone that if we're wasting time, we may as well just get on with it. But I'm thinking it's best we learn from the situation, amend some things so that we don't keep asking the same questions.
Yep.
And through the chair, just a point for acting CEO, would we need to update the policy because it doesn't request that the policy is quite...
No, sorry, clearing my throat, I do apologise. No, we can amend the form without,
Okay.
the policy is a strategic document for council to determine, which will come back in for review at some point in the future. We can simply amend our form to request the information.
Yeah, well, if that's the case, I guess what the acting CEO might be wanting me to do is to move to defer to the April meeting once further information.
Do we need to include that in the motion to seek the further information?
Oh, I can.
Council Secretary, Council yep, to the April 2023 council meeting.
Pending further information.
Pending further information from the applicants.
Yeah, from the applicants. Or if you want to put regarding the applicants.
Residents.
Yeah, residents.
The applicant's residential status.
Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Vanstone, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried.
Actually, I would like to ask regarding the funding process. I would like to ask what is the maximum grant the council can accommodate for the community teams? Is there any particular budget?
No, through you, Your Worship, Councillor Court, the maximum amount that council can allocate is the amount that's allocated in the budget. So I think it's $8,000 a year, but that would be a one-off grant application issued. Apart from that, it's generally the $250.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 14.4.1, Error Water Budget Review 2, 22-23. I just have a quick question about the report that's on there, and just the member of the audit committee that is representing the town of Walkerville is Michael Parkinson. Who is that, and do we have an opportunity to put a council member on that?
Through your worship, were you looking up a report
Mine
for
was
budget
there.
review Error Water?
14.4.1. Oh, sorry, I think that's 14.4.2. Yep, sorry, Mum, so we'll ask that question next time. Okay, so is there a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Vanstone. Seconder? Councillor Corn, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So, 14.4.2, appointment of a member to the Error Water Audit Committee. This is relating to the appointment of the City of Burnside's nomination to that committee, who they have nominated Harvey Jones, Councillor Harvey Jones. So my question is, who is Michael Parkinson? And can we have a council member if there was someone that was interested in it?
Your Worship, so Mr Parkinson is so there was an expressions of interest called to Councillor Williams, I think it was 2 years ago, so the independent member's already served a 2-year term and was reappointed mid last year, I believe it was, for a further 2-year term. Expressions of interest was called at a point in time, and Mr Parkinson was the nominee that the previous council allocated to put onto the board. So in answer to your question, yes, once the independent member's term has come to a conclusion.
Yeah, okay. So
Through the chair, just to add, in the Era Water Charter or the Audit Committee Charter, there needs to be a requirement of a certain amount of elected member representation and independent member
Yes.
representation. So I believe the City of Burnside and the City of Norwell Payne and St Peters both have elected members, and the Town of Walkerville have an independent member.
oh, so we won't have a choice next
So-
time round then either.
Potentially there could be a shuffle, but that's a requirement in the charter as well. Yeah.
Is there a mover for Councillor Harvey-Jones being on the Emerald Water Audit Committee? Councillor Vanstone, seconder. Councillor Zeppel, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, identification of items for individual consideration. So we'll just go through and see if anyone has any questions or issues they'd like to raise regarding the works reports. And so I have a question on 16.3.1. Anyone else? 16.3.2. I have a question. 16.3.3. 16.3.4.
Sorry, Richard, did you get mine on the ones?
Oh.
3.2?
No, sorry, 3.2.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. 16.3.4. 16.3.5. 16.4.1. I have a question. Do you want to discuss? 16.4.2. 16.4.3. And 16.5. I have something on that. Okay, so we'll have a motion to move the items 16.3.3, 16.3.4, 16.3.5, 16.4.2, 16.4.3.
That's just moving on block. I move it.
Yep,
Yeah.
thanks, Councillor Rick. Seconder? Councillor, many of you, Councillor Vanstone. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, going back to 16.3.1. My question to James, thank you for including now the requests that are coming in. I just had a question to do with, so a couple of questions which I'll just ask and you can answer in bulk. Particularly things that are hazards, so things like trip hazards with footpaths or missing signage, that sort of thing. What is the turnaround time to complete those hazards? And then what is being reported here, I think, is what has come up in that month. So it's not a total amount of currently outstanding list. So what is the total count for these things? Particularly trip hazards, because I know from speaking to people in the community that's kind of a hot topic. And then on the following pages with the graphs that you've provided and the works that have been undertaken, it's not clear in which of these categories, the categories that you talk about on page 197 fit into the work that you do in the graphs on 199. So for instance, is that the priority works or what is it?
Yep, so through your worship, so correct, it is a monthly snapshot of the requests we receive. Each request is different in the sense that even a trip hazard, we'll go out and inspect it. If it's an easy fix, then that can be done within a shorter time frame. If it's something that may need to be made secure and then come back at a later time frame. So we haven't really done any mapping or modelling about what the response times are. As far as the graphs, that's a separate process to our customer request process. Mm-hmm. So the tables, specifically someone contacting council about an issue. The graphs are our guys in the field using their iPads where they're documenting their work that they're doing. So at the moment, the two they don't line up. They're separate. It's a good mapping tool for what our guys are doing. But our customer request system doesn't have a capability at the moment to link those two things.
Yeah. So do you triage the customer request that comes in and goes?
Yeah, so essentially, through your worship, so essentially a customer request will come in, and depending what that category may be, the responsible team leader or manager will then send that out to the guys to go and, and that's when they're documenting that work.
Yeah, okay. Right.
Yep.
Sorry, question.
Yep.
So you say a footpath trip hazard?
Yep.
When you say the guys go out, are they fixing the issue, or are they just making it safe?
So a combination of both. So we use an Esri product called Survey 123 to document that hazard. But then whether that's repaired straight away depends on the extent of work. So if it's a quick lift and relay, we can fix it on the spot with in-house. If it's works that need to be programmed, then we need to coordinate that through contractors and make sure that we're being efficient with our works rather than sending contractors out to fix small jobs. It really depends on the
So do we have service standards on that? I mean, I know some councils will let them spray it up and they'll leave it there.
Yep.
So they have a number of works, like you said,
Yep.
to sort of economise that, and then you end up with a trip hazard there for 6 months, because there might not be anything in the immediate locality.
Yeah.
Or do we have a service centre around, we will fix it in 2 weeks?
Well, currently there's no set time frame, so it really depends on the hazard. You're right, we do mark up certain trip hazards and try and economies of scale, get bulk works done. If it's an immediate, like a hole in the ground, or there's a gap where it's an immediate hazard, then that needs to be fixed straight away. So it's a risk assessment. So if someone's potentially going to gravely injure themselves, or it's a hazard, then that needs to be made safe straight away. May not be completely fixed, but it will be made safe.
Okay. All right.
Okay. I take it no other questions on that. So is there a mover to receive and note that works report? Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Zeppel seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. The next one is 16.3.2, the monthly financial report. Councillor Trotter, we'll start with your question.
Just wanted to ask, and thank you, Vicky, for separating everything out. So it makes it easier for us to see the operation of the grant funding, which we spoke about in the audit committee. Just getting some clarification around the Bank SA transaction account on page 203, which is the cash equivalent. So is that, if we're using a line of credit for operational, what's the Bank SA fund used for zero banking?
Through your worship, just to clarify, is this the Bank SA transaction account with 310,000 in it?
That's correct.
Yeah. So the way we structure our funds is we keep all of our surplus money in our CAD, so any interest is reduced as much as we can. Then when we're going to make payments, we transfer it into our Bank SA transaction account. That is really just an account that's used daily. That's probably was a point in time where we're about to pay creditors. That's why it's so high, but we keep it to an absolute minimum. So that's just our payment of funds to creditors and whatnot, because we can't actually pay creditors through the LGFA.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, so we transfer across.
And how long would those funds sit in there on average?
Oh, 24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just a snapshot in time?
Yeah, we
So
pull it in.
those payments are like a clearing account?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all. Okay.
Thank you. My question is just to do with the open space irrigation, which is on time but over budget but not yet complete. So how much further over budget is that anticipated to go?
Yeah.
Sorry, through your worship, Chair. So essentially, we had to upgrade a number of irrigation controllers across the township. There are a couple of key sites, Crawford Reserve and Levi Oval, but that work is now completed.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, it's just not updated in there, I don't believe, so that should be completed.
Yeah.
And so that's that irrigation to do with Emerald Water?
No, so they are irrigation sites, as in how we like the pipes and the controllers for us to irrigate. So it's after the Era Water Network it's
But
RO.
it's using Era water.
Yeah, correct. It's using mains and Era water. Yeah, they have mains backups as well.
Okay. Why do we need mains backup? Don't we have a full aquifer of water?
I'll have to answer that on notice.
Okay. Is there a mover to receive and note the monthly financial report? Thank you, Councillor Trosha. Seconder. Councillor Core, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. So the next one was 16.4.1, the Era Water Special Board Meeting minutes. Just want to work out what the question was. Well, this is just more of a discussion point, I guess. So Era Water has put forward their draft budget that Walkerville will be putting in $200,000 in the next financial year and then $200,000 for the next 4 years.
That's
correct. So, I mean, at what point, how does that now work? I mean, that's their budget. Do we have to accept it, or do...
Through your worship, the short answer is no. So it's their draft budget that they submit it to councils, to the constituent councils for consideration as part of council's budgeting process. So there was a similar recommendation made last year where council with Town of Walkerville would pay $200,000, and the other constituent councils would pay $1 million each, I believe it was, Vicky. The audit committees and the other constituent councils did not proceed with that and made alternate changes. So it'll come into I think the next budget workshop maybe for consideration, and then council will deal with it.
Nut it all out then, and at that point we'll understand the implications if we don't agree to pay it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question? We're not actually committed to that 200,000 every year, are we?
We are not. So the recommendation that, the motion that Town of Walkerville Council passed last year was that instead of committing to a 5-year period, it was committing to a 1-year period, and would assess the amount annually thereafter.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Is there a mover then
I'll move
to
it.
receive and note that? Thank you, Councillor Vanstone, Councillor Trotter, seconder. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. And then 16.5, I think my question was just how administration is tracking with that item that I asked about a few months ago for the audit of council's collection, which was going to be delivered in June.
The collection strategy, yes. So it's rather timely, Your Worship. It is on track. We've gone through the process. I'll defer to Sarah.
Through the chair, Vicky and myself have been working on that and finished the 2 days that we've spent at our storage company going through everything that was there. There was quite a lot, 2 storage sheds. And in addition to that, our valuer has been on site today doing the remaining items, which were up around the building here, so she had to come in to do that. So we're expecting that to be completed within the next couple of weeks. Around Easter is when we expect to have the full report.
So you should anticipate a report coming into the chamber just to sign off April and May at the latest.
Yep.
So.
Okay, thank you. And so is there a mover for that? Thank you. Councillor Trotter, seconder. Councillor Allenson, all those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Okay, there's no correspondence. Is there any urgent other business? No. Okay.
Actually,
yes.
not really urgent, but I forgot this question didn't start till Councillor Rick reminded me of something he said earlier. In the town newsletter, the email we get each week,
Weekly roundup?
Yeah, the weekly roundup. And I hadn't read right through this, but I saw one of the links regarding cricket pitches. And I was just trying to have another look at that link then, and I know there'd been some discussion at some stage around the cricket nets at Walkerville Oval about doing something about doing them up. So I didn't know whether that grant money was the sort of thing that you could apply to nets as well. Some of it said about cricket pitches, but it didn't seem to stipulate whether it's pitches or nets. So once again, that's something that we've had under consideration for a period of time with most of the projects. I think we've had over the last number of years, we've tended to might have put in applications, but only proceeded if we happen to get either reasonable funding or significant funding that saves something that we may have on the books to do at some stage or another anyway. So I meant to bring it up in questions at the beginning of the meeting, but forgot, I'm sorry. So
that's right. Through your worship, so the SACA grant I think you're referring to is for community groups, so we couldn't apply ourselves. However, if the cricket club wished to go down that path, we're happy to have those discussions about, give them some ideas of costs and things like that. But at the moment, there's no budget this financial year for us to upgrade the nets. However, yeah, it's a community grant, so they're welcome to apply and see how they go.
Am I able to put a motion at this point that basically says that administration right to the sports club or the cricket club, advising them of this grant if they would like to further investigate?
There's 11 days.
I'll actually just throw a bit of support there. They're a bit underdone, the nets. I've seen a number of people almost get hit because when the ball's lofted, it's the roof doesn't quite cover enough of the I suppose that trajectory. So it's from a safety perspective, I think it's just worthwhile giving the club an opportunity just to remind them to do that.
Your Worship, Councillor Williams, you wouldn't be able to put a formal motion in urgent other business. It should have been raised earlier in the night, but as you said, you forgot. You could simply put that you request that administration write to the club, but it wouldn't be a formal resolution on the books.
Yeah, no,
and if council are supportive of that as a whole, we can identify that in the minutes itself.
I may be aware of it already, but it's just one of those things that we've got an opportunity to make them aware of it in case they're not, so that they can do the legwork and find out whether they are a chance of having them approved, or it's an asset of ours as well. So.
The application's closed on the 31st of March, so there's 11 days.
Yeah.
Councillor Williams, if you're simply happy with that and the fact that it's been noted in there, I'm more than happy to undertake that tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be great.
Sayings. Would that be by email or by letter? Australia Post and whatnot.
No, it will be by email, and I'll do a follow-up text to the President.
What might you be suggesting?
So, moving on to item 19, which are confidential items. So I'll first ask that we move to go into confidence. So, is there a mover for that? Councillor Vanstone, seconded, Councillor Zappel. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Councillor Allison.
three comment. You can't just have it in continue. It's just ridiculous.
Okay, thank you. The next item is a discretionary rates rebate application for Jones 22-23. I'll request that the meeting moves into confidence and mover. Thank you, Councillor Whip. Seconder, Councillor Trotter. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried. item 19.3 is the appointment of an independent audit committee member. I'll ask that the meeting moves into confidence. Is there a mover? Councillor Zeppel, seconder Councillor Ripp. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And the time being 8:22, the meeting moved out of confidence. With that, we're at the end of our meeting. So the time being 8:22, I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you. I'm waiting for the meeting where there's like 6 confidential items.
Oh, we've done it before.
You can roll it.
Yeah, we've just had
You spend more time doing it
Yeah.
than you do actually.
Yeah.